Right now,
Today
53.
we'll tackle tough times in
The
California.
economic troubles facing San Diego will be the focus of Mayor Jerry Sanders' annual State of the City
reports
address.
a 60% hike in rapes where either one or both people.
UCLA researchers tracked the progress of 50 sarcoma patients using
From the KPBS studios, this is San Diego Week.
Hello, I'm Joanne Ferrian. Thanks for joining us. 1 week after the big blackout, we'll find out more about the major sewage spill it caused and the environmental fallout. Plus, more people are living in poverty than ever before. We'll tell you what it means in San Diego. And God and politics. We'll talk about how the two mix despite a growing number of atheists in America. That's coming up on San Diego Week. But first, the headlines. We go to Dwayne Brown in the KPBS News Center. Dwayne?
Joanne, Southern California grocery workers could be on strike by Sunday night. The workers have been negotiating for a new contract with Ralph's, Albertsons, and Vons. They've been working under a contract extension. On Thursday night, their union said it would cancel that extension. It doesn't mean the workers will strike, but it is the final step before a walkout. Ralph says it will close all of its Southern California stores if there is a strike. A walkout could be avoided if the two sides can agree on company contributions to a health care benefits fund for employees. Unemployment dropped a bit in San Diego County last month. The unemployment rate was 10.2% in August, down 0.4 of a point from July. San Diego's number was also lower than the statewide rate of 11.9% for August. The Postal Service is trying to cut costs and may lay off hundreds of people across the state, including here in San Diego. The agency is looking at closing 14 mail processing centers in California. One of them is in San Diego. The closures are part of a plan to cut costs by as much as $3 billion. It could be a week or more before we learn why a construction scaffolding gave way at the San Ysidro port of entry. 11 people were hurt when the scaffolding collapsed onto lanes of traffic on Wednesday, creating a huge traffic jam south of the border. The port is in the middle of a major construction and renovation project. 50,000 vehicles pass through the San Ysidro port of entry every day. The investigation is also continuing into last week's big blackout, and now a class action lawsuit has been filed. Two men filed the suit against SDG&E and Arizona Public Service, accusing them of negligently operating their power plants. They say they're suing on behalf of everyone who suffered damages during the blackout, such as spoiled food. Starting next month, San Diego County will be using E-Verify for all of its new hires. Supervisor Bill Horn says it's a no-cost way to make sure county jobs are only going to those who can legally work in the U.S. He says he wants to see if county contractors can be required to use the program as well. The city of San Diego is considering two proposals to keep foreclosed properties from becoming neighborhood eyesores. Two community groups are proposing laws to fine the owners of foreclosed properties in disrepair. The proposed laws would require registering foreclosed properties and fines of up to $1,000 a day if the properties aren't maintained. The City Code Enforcement Department says those laws would increase its workload from 500 cases to 50,000. Home prices fell once again in San Diego County last month. The newest report from DataQuick shows a 5% drop in year-to-year prices in the county. The median price of a home was $320,000 in August. Sales were up, however, by about 4.5%. I'm Dwayne Brown in the KPBS News Center. Back to you, Joanne.
We're now learning more about the environmental effects of the big blackout. The outage caused several sewage pumping stations to go offline, releasing millions of gallons of sewage into lagoons and waterways. The spills closed beaches from La Jolla to Solana Beach and along the Silver Strand south of Coronado. All beaches have since reopened. Environmentalists are now assessing the ecological damage of the spill. Joining me now to talk more about the environmental fallout of the spill is Jen Kovexis, a staff scientist for San Diego Coastkeeper. Jen, thanks for being here.
No problem, my pleasure.
Let's start off with the two spills. Where were they?
So there was a small spill, or relatively small spill, into San Diego Bay from the Sweetwater Creek. And then there was a much larger spill, almost 2 million gallons, that happened in Los Penasquitos Creek from one of the pump stations located close to the coaster station near Sorrento Valley Road.
And that particular spill really caused a lot of beaches to be closed. Can you sort of briefly tell us the route this travels, the sewage spill would travel?
Sure. So that particular pump station is upstream from the Los Penasquitos Lagoon. So that the immediate spill water went into the creek and then traveled downstream to an area just upstream of the lagoon where there's there's a thicket of wetland plants. That caused the sewage water to really slow down and make its way slowly through the lagoon and then out to the beach, affecting the coastline up and down the coast from there.
So what are the immediate impacts and then sort of the long-term impact when you have a spill of this size?
So that's a great question. In this particular case, we know the immediate impact that I think most of your viewers now are familiar with are the beach closures and probably some related economic impacts from beach-related businesses that lost revenue as a result. In terms of the health of the creek and the lagoon, we know based on data collected by coastkeeper water monitoring volunteers that there were significant acute water quality impacts in the creek. Our water monitors, when they got to the scene on Saturday morning, noted in the creek a very strong smell of sewage. The water was like a black, dark gray, opaque color, and they found dead fish all along the shoreline and floating on the surface of the creek. Because that happens to be a site where we regularly monitor every month as part of our program, we collected samples and were able to compare the results of that sample from previous results that we've had for there. And we noted that the bacteria concentrations were way higher than they'd been previously, up to 600 times, at least 600 times higher than normal. The nutrient levels, like phosphorus and ammonia, were on the order of 60 times higher than what they are on average. There was pretty much zero dissolved oxygen in the water, which presumably is what led to the death of the fish. There's indication from the state parks preserve people that they have now found fish kills within the lagoon. So in the immediate aftermath of the spill, these are the types of effects we would expect to see. Over the long term, depending on the efficacy of the cleanup, sediments can be a reservoir for bacteria, so there's the potential that this spill will continue to contribute that type of pollution for some period of time to come. And the impacts that it has on the fish populations in the lagoon and the creek right now are unknown because we don't know to what extent that particular population was harmed or if any other populations were harmed.
Now, this spill occurred because there was no power and pumps went out. I think probably many of us felt there might have been backup generators, but there weren't in some cases. What is it that Coastkeeper is asking the Water Board to do now after learning that there's the potential for this to happen again?
So we're working on two fronts. One is working alongside working to ensure that our regulatory agencies like the Regional Water Quality Control Board, Department of Fish and Game, and state parks do the swiftest and most thorough investigation that they can into this particular event and identify the root causes so that we can ensure that the city addresses those root causes and we prevent this from happening again. Secondarily to that, we are looking to make sure that in terms of the enforcement that happens, that appropriate mitigation happens to restore the ecological damage that happened. We are also working within our lab to potentially continue water quality monitoring to ensure that, or to track the recovery post-cleanup of this spill.
Jen Kovexis from San Diego Coastkeeper, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
This is National Preparedness Month, but the big blackout caught a lot of San Diegans unprepared for a disaster. This weekend, KPBS and the American Red Cross are teaming up to pass out free prep kits to the first 1,000 people who stop by. It's happening at the Red Cross headquarters in Kearny Mesa on Saturday from 10 until noon. You can learn more on our website, kpbs.org/totallyunprepared. Earlier this week, expanded census data from 2010 was released, showing more people are living in poverty. Now, just about 1 in 6 Americans are at the poverty line, with the official poverty rate jumping almost a full percentage point from 2009. Joining me now to tell us what the numbers mean to San Diegans is Murtaza Baksamusa. He's with the Middle Class Taxpayers Association of San Diego, and he's worked on issues of poverty in San Diego for several years. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Joanne.
First, tell us how the poverty line is measured.
The federal poverty rate is based on an arcane formula on the cost of food that was established 4 decades ago. It is across the board across the board, a national metric of how much food costs, it is $11,300 for a single person and $22,500 for a family of 4 with 2 children.
If you're earning less than that or at that, you're at the federal poverty line.
Correct.
In San Diego, do we know if the 1 in 6 living in poverty, if that trend holds true in our county as well?
It is pretty much across the board. In California, we see the number in poverty being higher. There is 16% poverty rate in California, 1 percentage point higher than across the nation. In San Diego, we typically see something lower than the national level, say 2 percentage points lower. But in terms of the trend, that there has been an increase in poverty during this recession, I think that'll bear true in San Diego as well.
I think people at home might have heard, family of 4, $22,000. When you're talking about San Diego County, though, what are the things unique to our county that may influence whether you're actually living in poverty officially or perhaps unofficially? Because that $22,000, a family of 4, I don't know who could live on that.
It doesn't go far in terms of what it costs to make ends meet in San Diego. Our biggest cost is housing. Our housing is, even though the market is slumped, is so expensive that it is more, in terms of cost of living, is more than in other places. Healthcare, the cost of healthcare is driving cost up, food and education. Those are some of the significant costs in the budget of a family.
So really, should anyone be surprised by these numbers given the recession, given the high unemployment rate and an unemployment rate that has remained high now as we go into year 2?
It's not. It is surprising the extent at which it has gone up, because remember, the recession actually ended almost a year and a half ago. But the fact that poverty has kept increasing and incomes have kept declining is surprising. 1 in 3 Americans are finding it hard to make ends meet. They are below the economic hardship threshold of 200% of the poverty rate. This is a similar situation in San Diego as well. We find that 200% to be roughly corresponding to what it costs to make ends meet in San Diego.
So is this going to be an issue of getting people back to work, or is it also an issue of perhaps underemployment, where we might be seeing a lot of people who are in jobs, but perhaps jobs that don't pay enough for people to live on?
It is both. The unemployment rate over 10% has impacted people's incomes, but at the same time, for every 1 high-end job we're creating 8 low-wage jobs in the region. So that is driving the average incomes down. Now, I must point out the fact that the median income fell last year. The median means the average fell by over $1,000, means that the middle person across the board is feeling the pinch of this recession in terms of seeing the amount they bring home lessened. To give you an example, that work is not paying as much as it used to, a male worker that is working full-time year-round today is earning less than his father would in 1978 when adjusted for the cost of inflation.
We're going to have to leave it there. Murtaza Baksamusa, Middle Class Taxpayers Association of San Diego, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Joanne.
San Diego is expected to grow by 1 million more people over the next 40 years. This week, local leaders held a series of public forums to look for ways to handle that growth. And as Dwayne Brown reports, everyday San Diegans were asked to put in their 2 cents.
This may look like a popular board game.
I think we can get rid of 1 or 2 of these.
But these folks are conducting serious business at the San Diego City Concourse downtown. The challenge is to locate where job and housing growth will be over the next 40 or 50 years in San Diego, and create a plan of action.
It looks like all of you are making good progress.
Brandy Marco from City Heights says we need to improve our public transit system.
I know people that commute an hour each way to and from their home to work, and I would very much like to see people being able to work closer to where they live closer to where they work, to be able to afford that, to be able to spend that time not driving on the road, but with their friends and families and in their communities, making a difference in things that they enjoy doing.
So I really want to see more public space in my neighborhood. I mean, the public space is limited to a mall. I mean, the UTC Mall, and it's great. It's a beautiful mall. But when you're there, you have a distinct impression that the only reason you're there is to buy something. And if you're not buying something, you're not really welcome.
Yes, I just want to say I'm glad for this opportunity.
April Gabrielle Davis lives in the South Bay. She hopes her involvement will entice her friends and neighbors to get involved as well.
I'm no different than any other person, my neighbor, from the communities that we live in, from where I've grown up in. I've grown up in Southeast. So I have a cherished love for a lot of our communities around us. The schools our children go to, how we integrate with one another is very important to me as well. So I just want other people to look at me and say, oh, listen, I can do that too. I can get just as involved as April does.
Mary Ball with the San Diego Foundation says 70% of our future population growth will come from inside the county.
It's going to come from people who live here today having children. We're going to need to create 500,000 new jobs in the next 40 years. We're going to have 400,000 new places for people to live. And what we heard from people is, we're worried about that change. We're worried that there's not a plan for our region.
Public feedback from 6 forums like this one will help shape a menu of choices in November. That's when the general public will be asked to prioritize the vision for civic leaders to consider.
And you can voice your choice and see what others have to say about San Diego's future online at showyourlovesd.org. Despite the guarantee of separation between church and state in America, recent political debate would suggest otherwise. In 2008, President Obama's religious affiliation was questioned. And now in the GOP primary, questions of religious belief often take front and center. The increase in religious discourse is surprising given unbelief or secularism is on the rise in America and worldwide. This week, San Diego State University hosts an international conference on secularism, and my guest is Rebecca Moore. She is an SDSU professor of religious studies. Dr. Moore, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about this conference.
This conference is the first ever to study the history of unbelief, which includes secularism, humanism, free thought, atheism, and so on. And it's also the only conference we know of that's observing the 500th anniversary of the birth of Michael Servetus, who was burned at the stake for being a heretic in the 16th century.
If we can back up a little bit about the words we're using as well. I spoke about unbelief, secularism, and how is this distinct from atheism?
There's really a wide continuum or spectrum of belief, ranging from atheism and people who say there absolutely is no God, to skeptics, doubters, humanists, who some would say humanism is a type of religion, others would say it's simply a philosophy. Free thought being really an approach to life. So I think many people in the unbelief community would prefer to call themselves rationalists as opposed to religionists, in that their approach to life is rational and based on the natural rather than the supernatural.
Do we know what the numbers are here in America? I mentioned that they're increasing in terms of people who come under this category.
The figures range between 5 to 10% of people who would say that they're an atheist. But within that category, there are varieties of atheists and atheisms. But another surprising statistic is that about a quarter of Americans are nones, N-O-N-E. They have no religious affiliation. Now, that does not mean that they don't believe in God, but it does mean that they're not connected with any religious institution.
So we also know that now in our political debate, this has become a very big topic. Even now in the GOP primary, we're seeing next to candidates their religious affiliation. Why is it that there seems to be more of this, more talk of religion within the political debate?
Well, although our Constitution in Article 6 says that there shall be no test for public office, no religious test for public office, we find that religion has really not just recently but always been a part of political discourse. I think it's become more important because people perceive there to be culture wars or attack on family values, and so religion is seen as the defender of values and ethics, and that has has become an issue, certainly in some campaigns, but not all.
Do you think that we will see a time when a political candidate could declare themselves as an atheist or a non-believer? Is that even possible in this country?
I think it's pretty difficult at the moment. So far as I know, there's only one member of Congress who's declared himself to be an atheist, and that's Pete Stark from Los Angeles. And even though people might not be particularly religious, they still would claim a religious affiliation. But I think it's much more likely that a Mormon or a Muslim would be elected to public office, as they have been, than an atheist.
Although we do know for the first time President Obama did refer to, was it unbelievers, non-believers in a speech?
Right, people of no belief. Although that's not really a fair characterization, because people who are not believers in God definitely have other belief systems and ethical values.
Dr. Rebecca Moore, SDSU Professor of Religious Studies and host of the conference this weekend. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Tomorrow, the Oceanside Museum of Art will open Inspired by Ink, its fourth exhibition of tattoo art. This year, the focus will be on traditional Americana-style tattoo art. KPBS reporter Beth Accomando visited Sam Phillips American Tattoo in Bonsall to see tattoo art in the making.
6 years ago, Sam Phillips realized a dream and bought American Tattoo.
Well, there's tattooing as it started, just like anything. There's, olden times people remember and cherish, and then there's the way of the future. I'm kind of in the middle there. I really respect where we came from and how the tattoo shops were simple. And it's just pictures of your paintings, a checkerboard floor and some half walls.
Phillips and two of his tattoo artists will be among those featured at the Oceanside Museum of Art's Inspired by Ink. Chris Wynn curated the show.
Unlike a painting that you hang on the wall, that you put into a frame, they are basically our canvases that walk around every day, living, breathing canvases.
You don't get a white square canvas every single time. Sometimes there's a mole right in the middle of what you're trying to do, and you just kind of work as you go.
Tattoo art involves a unique collaboration between the artist and the client.
It's the speaking about the conception, the actual conceptual drawing, the fine-tuning of that conceptual drawing, the actually setting up, the putting on the stencil, the tattooing. It's not like setting down your palette and walking away and going and grabbing a sandwich, coming back and picking it up and grabbing the paintbrush and going on your canvas. That person's sitting there.
Tattooing's not an easy business to get into. Sarah Spinks was Sam Phillips' first apprentice at his American Tattoo shop.
My favorite part about this job is that I get to delve into the human experience, like with every client, because I'm in this liminal space where people open up to me and they tell me things about themselves, and I can tell them things about myself. Are you okay with the lettering?
Yeah,
like this?
I like the lettering.
I think it reads a little more like a story, like kind of what you're trying to say. And I like. Sometimes it's really awesome because you can accentuate somebody's body. You can improve their self-image. You can cover things maybe they don't love about themselves.
As a tattoo artist, Phillips says he has to create and sell art every day. But creating body art is something he's wanted to do since he was a teenager.
Sometimes you can't get the same effect as you could on paper, or you don't get the same kind of light or movement that you can get on paper. And sometimes it's really bad because you're hurting someone and they don't like it. They like the finished product, but some people come in and bring a book and they'll sit like a rock, we say. They just sat. They didn't move, and you just did your work. And then some people come in, they're oohing and ahhing and moving all over the place.
That can be frustrating because maybe your piece doesn't come out exactly, like maybe somebody twitched right at the wrong moment.
Yeah, you can't, it's not like throwing away a piece of canvas.
Even when people flinch, an older tattooer once said when I was listening that people move. It's part of your job, deal with it. Unless someone really jumps away from you, a little budge, you're on them, so you're moving as they move.
It's a one-shot, one-chance industry.
Hunter Feirick is Phillips' newest apprentice. He says it can be a challenge to work with limited real estate.
Everything comes into play, especially placement on the body. You get into spots that are been used a lot over the last few years, and then it becomes a lot harder to tattoo that area.
My favorite thing to tell people is they're not shaped like a beer can. And so when you put the stencil on them, you have to tell them, look, you're not perfectly round.
But adapting to a living canvas is what tattooing is all about. And it's one of the things the Oceanside Museum of Art wants people to appreciate.
Tattooing is kind of changing. It's kind of becoming a bigger thing, where before we would set up galleries and bars and restaurants, stuff like that. The fact that tattooing has come so far, I think it's cool to be shown in a real museum. It's kind of showing how tattooing has progressed.
The show also provides validation from the artistic community to artists who have often been relegated to the fringes.
A lot of tattoo.
That was Beth Accomando reporting. The Oceanside Museum of Art's Inspired by Ink runs September 17th through the 25th. There will be a runway event featuring body art on live canvases September 24th. Well, thanks for joining us this evening. You can see all of the stories, all of tonight's stories on our website at kpbs.org/SDweek. And we leave you now with a look at the weekend weather forecast. Have a great weekend. Good night.